Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Mata Shri Aravindaya Taddinam Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Mama Jivanam Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Mama Kutumbam Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Mama Duhitaram Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Mama Mitrani Sarvani Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Asmakam Adhyayanam Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Mama Pravachanam Yuvabhyam Samarpayami. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right, Isha Upanishad. So you said that you have some questions. I'm looking forward to your questions, or kind of sharings, if you will, of what we did already. We did 8 shlokas. We came up to Saparyagat Shukramakayam Avranamasnaviram Shuddhama Papa Viddham, to this one. About the Spirit and the Lord. Lord and the Spirit. Self and the Lord, as Sri Aurobindo says. There is a beautiful explanation given by Sri Aurobindo in the Kena Upanishad on these two, the self and the Lord, how they are related. The self is our existent one, which is, it is the being, and the Lord is the consciousness of this being. And all the faculties of consciousness belong to the Lord. That's why Purusha has sight, hearing, word, and so on. And Atman is the self, self-existent one. So these two are one and the same, but still we look at them as two different categories of consciousness and being. So the Lord is that conscious one, which wants to embody, which wants to be consciously present within his own self-existence. So that is Atman. Atman is everything. There is nothing here in this world but Atman. But the consciousness is not totally embodied. And to embody the consciousness fully, so the whole process of this manifestation is taking place. Yeah? I was just giving a preamble for maybe some thoughts or questions. So. Shooting ahead first, kind of warming up the atmosphere.
Juliette sent an email about one.
Okay, I didn't see the email. To me? Did you say?
I think so.
Okay, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. This happens. I will open the email and you sent it to here it is, yeah? Okay. 26 minutes ago, of course, then I didn't see it. Right. Thank you. Yeah. Ask yes. We do not know the time. There is no time frame between the ancient rishis and the modern rishis, Angirasas. Truly speaking, nobody knows this. Most probably they coexist even now. The ancient rishis coexist in the same way as the modern rishis. So they exist now in this time. but they are ancient because they came earlier. And that's why the first verse of the Rig Veda says, or second verse of the Rig Veda, that Agni is to be sought with adoration by the ancient and modern rishis, has to be adored by ancient and... Right, it was a glitch. And in that sense, one can understand that ancient rishis still are present in some form, in the subtle form, or they can be embodied in the physical body also. But they belong to that first consideration of the consciousness, which came down first. And that was very different from the Angirasas, which came later and tried to embody the psychic being, in psychic being to embody the divine consciousness. Yeah, I don't know this book. But this is the... Yeah,
maybe it exists in English. I don't know.
Maybe it doesn't exist. Bible represents very interesting consideration. The whole Western civilization and biblical Abrahamic religions, they are also kind of coming from the same source of knowledge, yes, pre-Chaldean, pre-Vedic tradition, but they took another turn. They took a turn towards the manifestation only, denying the spirit, so to say. For them, the science, the occult sciences, the occultism became more important than the spiritual life. And in India, there was a turn taken towards spiritual life, towards the soul and finding the spirit. Whereas in the Western tradition, in the Chaldean tradition, there was an inclination towards manipulation in nature, so to say, making nature do what we want. Now, we can see it. That's why we have the split on East and West. West went towards science and towards materialism, whereas the East went towards the spiritualism. And it was inevitable, as Sri Aurobindo says, because there was no possibility to hold both, as it was done in the Vedic times. So Bible represents something interesting in a way. It's not really about the spirit, not so much. It's about the embodiment, the development in nature. Well, one can feel that shift from the biblical, in the biblical sense when you read Bible. And even Christianity was not totally accepted by Judaism because of this reason, that Christianity brought too much emphasis on the spirit, on the individual, representative of the universal soul, for which actually Jesus was crucified. He was crucified for this very blasphemy where he said that me and my Father are one. And this is the Vedic view, that we are all the sparks of the universal spirit. but that was not really easily accepted by Orthodox Judaism. You cannot speak such thing. We are not representing Father. Father is separate from us, it's a transcendental world, and we are by ourselves here. Yeah? And we will be judged according to our life, and we will go either to heaven or to hell, and that's it. It's not much else. And there is no coming back, there is no continuation, there is no work, there is no sacrifice, there is no transformation of nature. Somehow, nothing much. And you can see that this was also adopted by Islam, because Islam is 85% of Judaism, ritualistically. All the celebrations and everything is taken from Judaism. Whatever they say about themselves, yeah? But they added to it very aggressive and fanatic approach. But truly speaking, they believe in the transcendental Godhead, and we can never reach him. We will never be close to him. He will always be separate from us. Yeah? He cannot be described, cannot be experienced, cannot be lived, cannot be approached, cannot be loved. Because he's too far away and by himself. And then you can only reach to Muhammad, whose tomb is hanging between heaven and earth as a link to the divine beyond, which we never reach. This is it. We have no choice. We have no possibility to become divine. It's actually it's a very harsh treatment of human spirit, very harsh, not to allow humans to become divine. Yeah, dogmatically deny the possibility for human beings to grow into the divine, to become close to the divine, to be loved by the divine, to love the divine. You have rights only to be following dharma. That means whatever is the prescription given in the scripture, either it is Bible or it is Quran. But none of them are perfect as we know it. And human beings are far from it also. So that's why we have such a mess. There is no occult ground, there is no philosophical ground in these religions to become divine. Only Christianity brought this, and for that he paid with his life. $100, it's an occult thing. I do not know what it means, truly speaking. I can't really totally tell you. But Mother speaks about it. She says that, as you know it from Agenda, she says about this all the time, if I could cross 100 years, things would change. There is something about it. I don't know what it is. What is 100 years in terms of Earth rotating around the sun 100 times? I don't know why it is so important. So the one who lives with the free spirit of the Lord from the time of birth till the end, during 100 years, may do some tremendous change. Well, it's implied. I'm not sure that it is even implied, but it is said so. And Mother said so. If she would only cross 100 years, things would change. So what she meant, we do not know. All right. Regarding ancient and modern rishis, we also don't have any distinct time. It is not that they are ancient, that they were left behind. They started from the beginning and they are still here in a way in all our considerations of survival, of body, of preference of the physical, vital and mental nature, everything. The whole Western civilization is built on these ancient rishis of the enjoyment in nature and so on. And Angirasas are bringing consideration of the psychic, of the love towards the divine from the heart. And these are these new religions which came later. Christianity is one of those. And Bhakti movement in India, love for the divine Krishna as a child, as a lover, as a so on and so forth. So that is that new spirit. It started with Ramayana. In Ramayana, there is this, love of the father and wife and brother. There's so much love in Ramayana. It is totally built on this devotion and love. And in such difficult situations, you can see how much love Rama has for everyone. And it is interesting how Ramayana describes it, because it is not speaking in his own way. It is not how he feels only, but also how others feel about him. It is through them you know how much love is there. He found a way to really beautifully describe it. Yeah? For example, when Rama goes to, the story of Ramayana, yes? Did you read the Ramayana story or heard of it? No? Okay, well then, yeah, it's a big epic, and it's about love, about Rama and Sita. And Sita was stolen by Ravana. Ravana was Rakshasa who was mighty, and Rama goes and kills Ravana on Lanka and takes Sita back. Yeah? That's the framework. But within that, the Rama is the embodiment of Vishnu, Avatar Vishnu. And he has 3 sons who are also the embodiment of Vishnu, helping him. And he was loved by everyone in the country. And everybody wanted him to be a king. He was mighty, beautiful, dharmic, loving, and so on. And when he got married, he could become a king. And so the coronation was appointed for 6 o'clock in the morning. But there was one person who hated him in the kingdom, and that was the servant of the queen, of the younger queen. There were 3 wives. Dasharatha had 3 wives. And the youngest one, Kaikeyi, her mind was poisoned by this servant, which was henchback servant. Old lady came, it's like a little bit like fairy tale, and told her, but look, Rama will be a king, and what about your son, Bharata? Is he not worthy to be a king? What will you do afterwards? Because Rama is the son of Kausalya, and Kausalya is the elder wife of Dasharatha. You will serve her now? She will be your master? And she started to say, no, please stop it. It's nonsense. I love Rama as my son, and Rama loves me as I am his mother. But she continued and continued and continued until she really made it. And then Kaikeyi was afraid. She became afraid suddenly. What will happen to her, to Bharata? Now Rama will become a king, and everybody will be, imprisoned and killed and so on. So she received 2 boons from Dasharatha. And when she saved his life, long ago she saved his life in the battlefield. And he gave her 2 boons, saying, you can ask anything you want, I will give you. So the henchback knew about this, and she said, now it's a time to ask for 2 boons. First is banishment of Rama for 14 years from the kingdom, and second, coronation of Bharata, your son. And in that moment, Bharata was away, in maternal uncle somewhere he visited. He was not there. So in the morning there is a coronation, 6 o'clock in the morning. The whole kingdom, all people came to Ayodhya, to this capital, with banners, with incense sticks, with flowers. All the streets were covered with flowers. Well, maybe I'm deviating too much to Ramayana story, but I want to tell you how beautifully it is described, love, for the first time, because this thing never happened in Upanishads or Vedas. You don't have this. So Rama is ready to be coronated, and the whole night Kaikeyi was talking to Dasharatha, demanding these two boons. And Dasharatha, the old king, he was 72,000 years old. Notice, the very old king. And he loved his younger wife. I don't know how he could love her in 72,000 years old, but he loved her most. And he told her, why you are so wicked? What happened to your mind? You are really under spell. How can you ask this from me? I love Rama most, and Rama is really my elder son, and he is to be the king. Nobody else can be the king if I have elder son. And if he is banished from the kingdom, I will not survive. I love him so much, I will die. But she didn't want to listen. So she demanded, and then Dasharatha had to comply. So when Rama came to Dasharatha 6 o'clock in the morning to be coronated, Dasharatha was all in tears, couldn't speak. And they said she said, if the king cannot speak, I will speak on his behalf. Your father demands that you leave this Ayodhya, you leave the country and go to the forest and live in the forest as a hermit for 14 years. And in the meanwhile, Bharata will be the king, coronated. And Rama says, why you are so worried, mother? To fulfill my father's wish is my command. It is my dharma. I am gladly going to the forest. It is his wish, and I am ready to really fulfill. And he bows to her feet, and he says, don't worry, mother, I will do as my father is commanding, because and he knew about the boons, and he said, because he is the dharmic king, he will never deviate from his word. He will follow his word. If he gave his word, it's my wish to fulfill it, because I am his son. So that was it. So he comes out, and the first thing he thinks is, oh, how my mother will react if I tell her this. How should I tell her in a way that she would not? You see, these subtleties, they were never before. Now, when he comes out and he sits on the chariot, and the chariot moves to the forest, and Sita and Lakshmana go with him, they insist to go with him. He doesn't want to take them. But they said, we don't want to live here without you. So they go with him. And the chief minister is driving the chariot away to the forest. All people follow the chariot. And they say, we go with you to the forest and we build another kingdom. We don't need to stay here. So he says to them, no, please don't do this. It's my father's wish. How can you leave, abandon the kingdom? You have to go back and stay with him. And then when he moves away with his chariot, his father, old, 72 years old, suddenly gets up and runs behind this chariot. For the last time, he wants to look into the eyes of his son. And when he runs on this road, he collapses. He falls down into on the road. And from both sides, there are two wives coming. One, Kausalya, the mother of Rama, and from another, Kaikeyi, and they take him up. And he moves away from Kaikeyi and tells her immediately, I do not know you, he says. I don't know you and your people, not in this life, not in that life, never again. So, and that was such a curse for Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi now realizes what she did, what she has done. And then people, he cheats on people, and in the night he runs away because people were following him anyhow. They didn't listen to his sending them away. So he runs in the night, and people are staying there in the forest and waiting. Maybe he will come back. And when they see that the empty chariot is coming back, only then they start weeping and crying, that they understood that Rama is finally gone. So this is something, really, such details which are so moving. Such a simple story, nothing to be moved with, but it hits somewhere so deeply emotionally. All the relations, all. And when Bharata comes, he speaks to his mother. She tells him that, and yes, in the meanwhile, Dasharatha dies because he could not bear the Rama going to the forest. He just cries Rama, Rama, and dies. And when Bharata comes back, he asks what my father said about me when he died. He doesn't know that he will be coronated the king. And then she tells him the whole story, and he doesn't believe. And he tells her, how could you think that I can be the king? I am younger son. How do you think I would feel that I would do such thing, adharmic, against the law? What do you think about me? Do you think I am this crooked man? You really think that I am this? And she again realizes what mistake she made, one after the other. But I will tell you something interesting. In Tamil Ramayana, there is Tamil version of Ramayana. It is portrayed a bit differently. And when Rama afterwards comes back, he meets Kaikeyi, and he loves her the same as his mother. And it is interesting because nobody loves Kaikeyi here. Everybody hates her except one person, Rama. Rama loves her. And in the Ramayana of Tamil Nadu, folk Ramayana, it begins differently. So the whole story, it begins in Vaikuntha, where Vishnu sits with gods together, and they say, we will have to do something. We will have to be embodied in the physical body, in the human world, to destroy Ravana, so to say. And he gives everybody a role to play. You will be doing this, you will be Hanuman, you will be this. All the gods get roles, yes? Who will be doing what? You will be Lakshmana, you will be this. So after everybody got the role, he says, there is one role which is very difficult, because you will be hated in this world and the next, forever and ever. But without this role, nothing will happen. I will not be able to go to the forest and kill finally Ravana. So the whole story has to happen this way. And he asks, who will do this for me from the gods? And nobody even looks at him. Only one Apsarasa, one divine girl. She said, I will do this for you. And she became Kaikeyi. So this is the bhakti, which we don't have anymore, neither before nor after. This is something, that intense love for the divine, which the West has, of course, also in terms of Christianity, but not in other religions, not so much. Anyhow, I'm going back to this. I don't know why I was carried away into Ramayana. Just wanted to show you Bhakti. So we went through this beautiful vision of the Lord being embodied. So all this is for his habitation. Therefore, one should be free as the Lord from the object of enjoyments and enjoy all this world with this freedom. And doing here works, being engaged with this consciousness, one can create some action or some transformation, transformative action, which does not create bondage, but creates freedom of the spirit in the embodied form. And this is second shloka. Thus and not otherwise, karma does not stick to man. Or one can just opposite believe that one is the nature, and then one goes into the darkness after death. So the spirit is one, does not move faster than the mind. The gods cannot reach it. He runs faster than them by being stable, by not moving. And in that spirit the Lord puts the embryo, he conceives the world within that immobile spirit. So he moves and moves not. He is far and close. It is inside and outside of all this. So the one who finds, who sees all the beings in oneself, and in the all beings oneself, he is not shrinking from this, in whom all the beings become himself, of the one who distinguishes this, who sees this, there is no suffering and there is no bewilderment of the one who sees this as one. So the spirit as one is very important for the embodiment of the divine consciousness in the self. So he is moving abroad. He has gone abroad, that which is bright, bodiless, that. And I was telling you that it is very difficult to reconcile between the genders here. So he moves abroad into that, or he embodies that which is bodiless, bright, sinews, without sinews, pure and pierced by evil. So there is some kind of embodiment of the spirit within the Lord, within the consciousness. He is the seer, the thinker, the all-existent and self-existent one. He established all the meanings, all the objects from the time sempiternal. And then we are coming to a very interesting passage. Andham tamav pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamoya ovidyayam rataha. Anyadeva hurvidyaya anyadahura vidyaya iti shushrumadhiranam yenastadvichachakshire vidyancha vidyanchayastadvedo bhayam saha avidyayam rityum tirtva vidyayam ritamashnote. Andham tamav pravishanti, into a blind darkness they enter who follow after ignorance. They as if into a greater darkness those who devote themselves to the knowledge alone. Here we have a paradox of some kind, Vedic paradox. We are dealing with Vedic knowledge where the spirit and matter were taken as one enterprise of the Supreme. Later we have a split, total split on the spirit and matter, or spiritual and natural life. Nature and the spirit are split, Purusha and Prakriti. And this split we embody in our thinking. We can think only in terms of spiritual life or material. We cannot think that material life is actually a spiritual life. We lost that view. And here we have that view, which is kind of difficult for us nowadays. A mother was struggle all her life about this. She wanted to tell us that actually material world is a spiritual world. We didn't listen to her. We can't understand what she means. Material world is a spiritual world. Matter is a spiritual enterprise of the spirit. It's not something opposite to it. It is the manifestation of the spirit. So when he says, Andam tamah pravishanti, into the blind darkness enter those who follow avidya. Avidya is the ignorance, or avidya, literally avidya, where the vidya knowledge is partial, or not actual, not totally actualized, partially actualized. What does it mean partially? In time and space. So the knowledge of time and space, for example, the knowledge how to operate PDF or Microsoft Word, is knowledge in time and space, how to click mouse, and how to write in English or Sanskrit. It is that partial knowledge which belongs to particular time or particular space. It is needed, but it is not the whole thing. So the one who follows only this knowledge of how to operate the computer, after death enters into the blind darkness because he believes that he got the knowledge, but he got only the knowledge in time and space, partially presented. But the one who follows only the knowledge of the transcendental as vidya, as the achievement of the spirit, enters even into greater darkness. And here is the puzzle. Some of you maybe read Life Divine or something of Sri Aurobindo, especially first chapters. The denial of the ascetic and the denial of the materialist. First two chapters. They are about this. You please look into them. You will be surprised what you will find them there. You will find the answer of Sri Aurobindo to this shloka. Why the one who follows the transcendental knowledge of the spirit enters into the greater darkness than the one who follows the knowledge in matter. Interesting, postulate. Absolutely unexpected twist of the events. And then it continues. I will leave this as a question. Anyadeva hora vidyaya, anyadahura vidyaya. Other, verily it is said, is that which comes by the knowledge, other that which comes by the ignorance. So it is different from, as they say, which comes by the knowledge. It is different from that which comes by ignorance. So that consciousness differs from what comes by knowledge and what comes by ignorance. Thus we heard, this is the law we have received from the wise who revealed that to our understanding. So there were ancient rishis who revealed this knowledge, that supreme consciousness is neither knowledge nor ignorance. Vidyam cha vidyam cheas tadvedo bhayam saha. He who knows that supreme as both in one, the knowledge and the ignorance, by the ignorance crosses beyond death, avidyayam mrityam tirtva, and by the knowledge enjoys immortality, vidyayam mritam ashnote. So it is neither only knowledge or only ignorance. They are one. And that is of their oneness. It is them both together and something more than they represent, something beyond what they can cover. That is the Spirit. That is the Lord. That is His Spirit we have to achieve. So what does it really mean? Do you have some thoughts?
It's very Arabindian now. It's the path of unity.
Right. Very, very integral yoga oriented thinking. Yes, it's like Sri Aurobindo was writing it. Yes. Right. There is no separation on the knowledge and ignorance. Ignorance is knowledge in time and space. This is the best definition we can give to ignorance. It's a partial representation of the knowledge, partial action of the knowledge. And it is needed in order to connect to that momentum of the happening in time and space. To connect properly, you have to have that ignorance, that partial knowledge. It's not enough to go only for the knowledge beyond and neglect and say that I don't need any knowledge in this world in time and space. I don't need to know how to operate. I don't need to know how to live. I neglect all this world and embodiment and nature and say I am not interested in this. I want to get out. That is following only knowledge alone. That means I will not do anything what nature makes here. I deny, so to say, all her attempts to build the spirit within nature, because I don't believe in nature. I believe only in the spirit, and that is Advaitin's approach of Advaita, where Brahman is true and nature is false. So why should we follow false nature? We should follow true spirit. So in that sense, I enter into the greater darkness. Why? And Sri Aurobindo explains in these two chapters, the denial of the materialist and the denial of the ascetic. Why we enter into the greater darkness if we follow the denial of the ascetic, if we deny the nature to embody the spirit. Interesting, unexpected turn. He says, if you deny, you will read there this, if you deny the nature and cling to the spirit, you are already the spirit, basically. It is something which you already are. You don't get anything new out of it. Yeah? Basically, the denial of nature leads only to one thing. That you deny the dynamism of the spirit which came here to do it. So basically, you deny the spirit in the manifestation when you deny the nature. And in that denial, you lose the spirit. If you deny the spirit and you become materialist, the denial of materialist, you cannot truly deny the spirit. You will be still there. You cannot really make yourself unspiritual totally, because it's not working that way. The spirit will endure because it is you. This is Sri Aurobindo's explanation. So the spirit will be still within you, even if you say you don't believe in it. But because you are engaged in nature, in making things materially, so to say, you will be engaged spiritually, definitely. even if you don't know about it, even if you call it differently, even if you deny it theoretically, you will never be able to do it practically. It's something which you would not expect anybody to explain. So there has to be some practical understanding of things in order to say this thing. It's not a theoretical view. It's a practical thing. If you deny the spirit, you say, there is no God. I am agnostic. I don't believe in it. I believe in matter. I believe in material life. You will engage with the spirit here and will do the purposeful, meaningful embodiment of the spirit, even if you theoretically call it differently. That's what Mother was explaining to the group from Russia, from the Soviet Union, when they came and they said, we don't believe in the divine consciousness. And you write that our will is for those who want to embody the divine consciousness. So we don't believe in it. So what shall we do? Shall we come or not? She says, yeah, you can call it differently. You can call it perfection, if you like. Doesn't matter what word you give. Because truly speaking, doesn't matter what we call, matters what we do. If I start denying material embodiment on the basis of my theoretical belief and say that I don't want to do anything in nature, I don't want to clean the house and to paint the house and to develop certain devices to make life, social life better and so on, then you deny this process of manifestation of the spirit. And eventually you will fall into very tamasic state. That's what India did. India lost the grip of a matter. And that's why it was invaded by Mongols first and then British. India lost its power, vital power in matter. And if you and that is much worse, because you deny the spirit in the manifestation. That means you are denying the spirit, basically, because the spirit is both spirit in itself and spirit in manifestation. It is one and the same spirit. So whatever part of it you deny the whole spirit. But it is better to deny the spiritual life and follow the material, according to Sri Aurobindo, than to deny the material life and follow the spiritual only. And this is a shocking conclusion. For any Hindu, will be a shocking conclusion, because they believe just the opposite. That's why Sri Aurobindo is not accepted in India until now. Because they didn't understand the law of the sacrifice. They think that the nature is something lower, something not from the spirit, and has to be abandoned. And there are beautiful passages which Aurobindo explains this in Savitri and everywhere. There is one passage in the Adoration of the Divine Mother, which is so well explaining this thing, this view on Isha Upanishad. Actually, it's all actually Sri Aurobindo's view. Wait a minute, I will take this passage because it will be enhancing our understanding tremendously. Here, it's the Adoration of the Divine Mother. When he comes to the highest realization, a stillness, absolute, incommunicable, he comes to this nirvanic state. Meets the sheer self-discovery of the soul. A wall of stillness shuts it from the world. A gulf of stillness swallows up the sense and makes unreal all that mind has known, all that the laboring senses still would weave, prolonging an imaged unreality. This is the perception, imaged unreality. Self's vast spiritual silence occupies space. Only the inconceivable is left. Only the nameless, without space and time. Abolished is the burdening need of life. Thought falls from us. We cease from joy and grief. The ego is dead. We are freed from being and care. We have done with birth and death and work and fate. Finished, free. Nothing else to do. And then he hears voice. O soul, it is too early to rejoice. This is Sri Aurobindo. Thou hast reached the boundless silence of the self. Thou hast leaped into a glad divine abyss. But where hast thou thrown self's mission and self's power? On what dead bank on the Eternal's road? On what dead bank on the Eternal's road you threw your self's mission and self's power? One was within thee who was self and world. And this is the secret. Self and world, spirit and nature is one. What hast thou done for his purpose in the stars? All these stars, they are for nothing? All these galaxies? It's just an imprisonment from which you have to get rid of? Can't be true. It can't be true. So much effort for nothing. Escape brings not the victory and the crown. Something thou camest to do from the unknown, but nothing is finished. And the world goes on because only half God's cosmic work is done. Only half. Only the everlasting No has neared and stared into thy eyes and killed thy heart. But where is the lover's everlasting yes? And immortality in the secret heart? The voice that chants to the creator fire, the symbol dome, the great ascending word. The bridge between the rapture and the calm, the passion and the beauty of the bride. The chamber where the glorious enemies kiss. The smile that saves, the golden peak of things. Where is all that? It's for nothing? Golden peak of things? Just everything has to be dropped into oblivion because we want to go back to the spirit where we came from? This too is truth at the mystic fount of life. A black veil has been lifted. We have seen the mighty shadow of the omniscient Lord. We have seen the mighty shadow of the omniscient Lord. But who has lifted up the veil of light? And who has seen the body of the King? Who has seen his embodiment in the physical nature, when the physical nature will be his spirit? Did anybody see the immortal being, the embodied Lord in the body? We didn't come to that point yet. We did only half cosmic work. So to say now that we have to go back is just escape, nothing else. The mystery of God's birth and acts remain, leaving unbroken the last chapter's seal, unsolved the riddle of the unfinished play. The cosmic player laughs within his mask. And still, the last, inviolate secret hides behind the human glory of a form, behind the gold eidolon of a name. So it's profound. If you just think for a second what he is offering here to us, it's something fundamental. That's what Isha is doing. So the vidya and avidya, the partial knowledge, the knowledge within the material embodiment and the knowledge beyond material embodiment is one consciousness and cannot be split, cannot be treated as two different. Yeah? Though our views are like this. We think, as he says about Satyavan, when I thought about nature, spirit disappeared. When I thought about spirit, nature disappeared. So I don't know how to keep both, how to hold on to the both. And now he says, since you came, Savitri, you are the golden bridge. You can connect these two. The Divine Mother can do this. So both of them together, the one who knows this, he crosses beyond death by partial knowledge, enjoys immortality by the transcendental knowledge. So we are crossing the field of death by our partial knowledge. We have certain things to know about our physical body, certain medicines, certain, certain sciences about physical world, and by that we are moving over the field of death. So that means in the field of time and space. But there is another presence in us, which is of transcendental knowledge, by which we enjoy immortality here, because it is simultaneously present immortality within us. Though we are mortal beings, our part of ourselves will die, but the part of ourselves will never die. And it is constantly enjoying immortality here in this mortal state. And there is another passage which is similar to this, very complementary, interesting. Andham tamav pravishanti ye sambhutim upasate tato bhuya ivate tamoya usambhutyam rataha. Into a blind darkness enter who follow after the non-birth, and as if into a greater darkness who devote themselves to the birth alone. Anyadevahu sambhavad anyadahura sambhavat iti shushrumadhiranam yenastadvicha chakshire. Other verily it is said, is that which comes by the birth, other that which comes by non-birth. This is the law we have received from the wise who revealed that to our understanding. Sambhutincha vinashancha yastadvedo bhayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva sambhutyam ritamashnote. He who knows that as both in one, the birth and the dissolution of birth, by the dissolution crosses beyond death, and by birth enjoys immortality. I am sure there will be more questions from the second one than from the first. First was easier, but this one is even more puzzling. He who knows that as both in one, the birth and dissolution of birth. By dissolution of birth, vinasha, by disappearance, by constant dying, he crosses beyond death. And by birth, by constant being born, he enjoys immortality. 1 second. my telephone. No? Sorry, this is reclam. Indian reclam. They send when you ask hello, they start singing. Singing and offering something to buy. Very nice things. So here I was very much puzzled when I read it first time. Why is that so? But Shiobindo explains it so beautifully in the notes. You can go into the birth and non-birth and see what he says, because otherwise I don't think you will even get it without his explanation. Even if you try to think. I tried hard and I couldn't really make it. I couldn't make it. And I had to read his explanation to understand. So by dissolution, one crosses over the field of death. It's quite clear. So dissolving our ego is the opportunity in our lifetime. So our lifetime, our embodied state, our reincarnation is for the purpose of dissolving our ego, to becoming free, to find the spirit. And by birth, one enjoys immortality. So we are to be born here, truly speaking, for the immortal reasons. So our immortality is sustained by constant birth here. It's perpetual, so to say, dying, that we are crossing beyond death by perpetual dying. We are moving away from our limited state of consciousness to the unlimited. But once we are there, we enjoy immortality by being born here. Because if we are not born here, immortality is not has no meaning. There, beyond, in the transcendental world, there is no immortality. It is the state which we cannot call immortality. Immortality, it is the state of eternity within time and space. This is immortality. Immortality there doesn't make sense because there is no mortality. So you cannot call it immortality because there is nothing to compare with as mortality. It is in one passage in the Vedas where Agastya Rishi was going beyond. He wanted to reach to the transcendental. And Indra stops him and tells him, why do you go beyond? You wanted to realize immortality, and you go beyond. Beyond, you will even not remember what you wanted to realize. When you come there are no thoughts. There are no intentions. There is no concept of immortality. There is no embodied spirit which creates immortality. There is spirit which is not embodied. There is no such concept. There is no such idea as immortality. And he says, let us not go beyond with this idea to dissolve ourselves into the beyond. Let us kindle the fire, because that is the consciousness of immortality, kindling the fire. So the presence of the spirit within the manifestation. And let us make the sacrifice and realize that what you want to realize, immortality here. Because immortality can be realized only here. It cannot be realized there. It's something unexpected, because we always, when we say about immortality, we, especially by Advaitin sense, we mean that beyond. Yeah, we think about the being beyond. This is immortal, but being beyond is not immortal. It's just something else.
That's a very philosophical part, but he's just anticipating of several decades what the philosophy would have found out, Western philosophy would have found later on. For me, I realized this passage, this shloka was quite clear because of all this definition of mankind and on the base of mortality. So there's it's the distance in between immortality and eternity. It's quite evident, but because the philosophy has done a long path after, when he wrote this, all existentialism was not written yet, basically. Maybe some Kierkegaard anticipating a bit, but it's somehow it's completely philosophical, but very much anticipating.
Yeah, it's also very practical. I mean, maybe it's philosophical also, but Kierkegaard, yes, he is either or. In his either or, it is neither nor. Yes, there is some other way, which is very much of that soul way, or that, the. Uh, Kierkegaard is one of the most interesting philosophers. So I do not know how he belongs to the Christianity. I don't think he's even Christian in proper sense, though he spoke so much of Christianity all the time. But he's my favorite, actually, existentialist. I also find him appealing so deeply to my spirit, to my soul. He's very psychic, yeah, anyway. I would say not spiritual, he's psychic. He has this need for love. He always embodies that need of the embodied spirit. Yes, of course. It's an interesting thought about Kierkegaard. Bring him here. And still, this kind of sambhuti and vinasha, sambhuti, a kind of birth, becoming, and vinasha, dissolving. So there are two processes going simultaneously. By dissolving, we are crossing the field of death. We can't really enter this field of manifestation in time and space if we are not going to constantly dissolve, so to say. We are entering the field of death, where the material manifestation is not able to reflect the spirit flexibly. It's not flexible enough. That's why it is dissolving. That's why it is crumbling. It is dying. And by dying out, we can stay for a while. And while staying, we can experience immortality by another part of our consciousness, which belongs to Vidya. There is no other way. Aitareya, which we will study also in detail after these Upanishads, Isha and Kena, you will see that Aitareya speaks about this, that the spirit to embody had to take a leap and to catch the form, to catch the embodied form in the matter. There was only one possibility, it is to die. So the death was the only way of embodying. So the apana, from which mrityu is born, death, caught the material form. So the material form, because it is embodied by the spirit, it is perpetually dying. Because the spirit is always dynamic. Spirit is never static in that sense. And the matter is very, how to say, not flexible, and it cannot respond very easily to the freshness of the spirit and novelty of the spirit. So it has to die out, and by dying out there is a process of our life, or birth, maturity, and old age and death. There will be always this kind of curve, yeah? And not only in our human life, but in all lives, and in plants and in other creatures. Plants are also born from the seed. They grow, they mature, and they get old and they die. So they all grow and die, grow and die. And this is the way how the spirit could really dwell in matter. There is no other way. Otherwise it should stay away from matter. It could stay away from matter without all this process of growing and dying. And the very fact that we can produce life or procreate, plants are procreating, they give seeds. They continue their life in terms of new beings, which they generate. So from them, the generation of new life. So the birth and death are connected. Yeah? Dying out, giving birth. Dying out, giving birth. Giving birth is equal to dying out. Yeah? This is what it is. To conceive, it was even seen like this, that conceivement itself, as man conceives the child, he dies out by that very fact. When he conceives, he dies. He gives away his life. And it's very interesting. Even Mother confirms with this. She says, every time you are sexually active, every time you engage, it's one step towards death. It's walking path of death. But it is implied that we give our life. We have to give our life to this. And by this giving life, we perpetually die. And by perpetually dying, we can enjoy immortality in a moment of that span of life, because we have a consciousness which is there. Yeah. So these are the issues. And I would suggest that you could go and see what Sri Aurobindo wrote on these birth and non-birth. It would be really lovely.
Vladimir, just a question, or maybe we can talk about it next time if it's too late. But twice it comes, this is the Lord that we...
Yeah?
Oh, twice in this shlokas we have, this is the Lord that we received.
Yes, this is the knowledge which we received, yeah. Thus we heard.
Yeah,
Yes, and what do you want to know?
This, how do you interpret this? Is reference to previous generation of rishis, or it's more
channels of the Supreme?
I think it is the basis which of that integral consciousness which was received from the beginning, that there is one consciousness, and that and we went through our presentations on the Vedic vision. We can see that there were two stages of creation, but it is all basically one, yeah? Which is being generated from the Supreme. And in that sense, though they are viewed as two, they are still one. And for the purpose of the embodiment of the spirit, both of them are working. So in that sense, birth and non-birth are just two different, so to say, interpretations of the process, or two different viewings of the same process from the point of view of the nature non-birth, which is seeking the spirit, and birth from the point of view of the spirit in nature. There are two different looks, meeting each other. From the point of view of the nature, nature seeks the spirit. It wants to dissolve its own, to say, formation in time and space. And from the point of view of the spirit, the birth is needed. He wants to be many. The spirit wants to be embodied in the physical form. Here, you will find very interesting explanation by Sri Aurobindo. Birth and non-birth are not essentially physical conditions, but soul states. A man may break the knot of the ego sense and yet remain in the physical body. But if he concentrates himself solely in the state of dissolution of ego, then he is not born again in the body. He is liberated from birth as soon as the present impulse of nature, which continues the action of the mind and the body, has been exhausted. On the other hand, if he attaches himself to the birth, the ego principle in him seeks continually to clothe itself in fresh mental and physical forms. You have to read this. You will find here so much profound views that I'm not able, maybe even to cover with this, my just saying things. So the birth and non-birth, let us read. The self outside nature does not become. It is immutable as well as eternal. The self in nature becomes. It changes its states and forms. This entry into various states and forms is the succession of time, is birth in nature. In the succession of time is birth in nature. Because of these two positions of the self, the nature and out of nature, moving in the movement and seated above the movement, active in the development and eating the fruits of the tree of life, or inactive and simply regarding, there are two possible states of consciousness, conscious existence directly opposed to each other, of which the human soul is capable. So these are two views: the state of birth and the state of non-birth. Basically, these are two first chapters of Life Divine, the denial of the ascetics and the same story. Man starts from the troubled state of birth. He arrives at tranquil poise of conscious existence, liberated from the movement which is non-birth. The knot of the birth is the ego sense. The dissolution of the ego sense brings us to the non-birth. Therefore, the non-birth is also called the dissolution or vinasha. It's it requires dwelling, and there is more, but the reason for this double movement of the thinker is that we are intended to realize immortality in the birth. This is the key. We are not intended to realize immortality beyond birth. That's why we have this puzzling shloka. The self is uniform and undying, and in itself always possesses immortality. It does not need to descend into avidya and birth to get that immortality of non-birth, for it possesses it always. It descends in order to realize and possess it as the individual Brahman in the play of world existence. It accepts birth and death, assumes the ego, and then dissolving the ego, by the recovery of unity, realizes itself as the Lord, the One, and birth as only a becoming of the Lord in mental and formal being. This becoming is now governed by the true sight of the seer, and once this is done, becoming is no longer inconsistent with being. Birth becomes a means and not an obstacle to the enjoyment of immortality. Birth becomes a means and not an obstacle to the enjoyment of immortality by the Lord of this formal habitation. This is our purpose, a proper cause, and not to remain forever in the chain of birth and death. It's not our purpose to remain constantly in the chain, nor to flee from birth into a pure non-becoming. It's also not our purpose. The bondage does not consist in the physical act of becoming, but in the persistence of the ignorant sense of the separate ego. The mind creates the chain and not the body. It's very practical, actually. And that's what he explains what is liberation. Liberation is not from the action, but liberation is from the sense, what we created, ego sense, which binds us to this action. We don't need to be free from action. We can't be free from action as from the body. We can be free only from the viewing it in a particular way. So the freedom from the ego sense is a liberation and not from the action. Action has to continue in the free, with the free spirit. All right. So we covered 6 shlokas today. They are kind of important. And if you find, just make a reference birth and non-birth and read again, and you will find very interesting explanations here. Active and inactive Brahman. Actually, these notes are profound. One has to read them on here, this birth and non-birth. The whole chapter is dedicated to the birth and non-birth. If you read it, this one, 3rd movement, this is profound. All right. If you have some questions or something, or we have to close down already. Or I'm too much longer, or was it longer already? Half an hour or something?
Yeah, half an hour longer, but that's fine.
Half an hour long. Oh, so sorry. Oh, totally.
I'm very glad. Maybe Juliette has
Oh, so sorry.
tasks, but we are very glad. Thank you for this extra time.
It was the Ramayana.
Ramayana took much time. Yeah, there I was kind of carried away. Yeah. All right. All right, then I will close with mantra. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.